And we're all set. So welcome to today's session. This is something I do on full moon and new moon. It's unscripted, like most of my sessions are, pretty much all my sessions are. And it's an opportunity for us to make the most of this full moon and new moon energy. We'll be practicing for about 2 hours. We might take a short break in between. We'll see how it goes. And it'll be a combination of some meditation, some readings, some discussion, some other teaching. We'll just see how it flows. I'm going to start with the sound of my bowl. The invitation of my bowl is that you bring all of yourself. You bring all of yourself to this experience. One thing I've noticed over the time I've been teaching is that it's less about what I want to teach, what I want to share. It's actually less about that. And it's more about the asking. So there is a field, a group consciousness that gets created anytime a group gets together. And each one of you, where you are in your life and what you're asking, and the intensity of that asking, the depth of that earnestness, that's what determines the depth and flow and indeed quality of that session. So even though this is a virtual event and it's a webinar, so I can't really see your faces, but each one of you, how you're showing up for this definitely influences this entire event. So I invite you to see yourself not just as a participant, but as a co-creator in this experience. There's the beautiful teaching which says that even if you deceive others, even if you lie to others, beware of the day when you start deceiving yourself, when you start lying to yourself. That's a dangerous day. So be honest. Be honest about where you are and what you need. And that honesty will permeate, infiltrate, and will influence everything that's shared here tonight. Sessions such as these are less about acquiring knowledge. There may be some knowledge acquired, but that's not the main priority. They're more about accessing the vertical dimension of our being, Horizontal dimension is where I was, where I am, where I want to be. Vertical dimension is I am. It's a radical embracing and encounter with yourself and life exactly the way it is. And everything that is shared here is in service of that. For many of us, the horizontal dimension of our life is the major momentum of our life. What happened, what is happening, what will be happening. And which is why meditation feels so foreign, so unfamiliar. Mindfulness feels difficult because there's a horizontal momentum. The whole point of mindfulness meditation or any other spiritual practice actually is putting your roots down. My teacher called it still flowing water. Life is still flowing water. Water is flowing, horizontal dimension, and yet the whole body of that flowing water is nothing but water. And so it's still water. It's always water. So it's still flowing water. There's a dimension of change and there's a dimension of non-change. And they're existing simultaneously. And that's the invitation. That's the potential. When we come for sessions like this, we at least get a glimpse, a taste, a whiff of this unchanging dimension. So the image of the vertical dimension, I'll give you a few different images, see if it helps. A large tree setting down its roots deeper and deeper. What if you are like this large tree, setting down its roots deeper and deeper? What if you are like an iceberg? Only a fraction of the iceberg is above the ocean. Most of it is below the ocean. In other words, the visible, measurable parts of you, this body, this mind, that's the tip of the iceberg. But what if who you really are is like an iceberg? That's your vertical dimension. What if you are like a vertical shaft of sunlight? Vertical shaft of sunlight, beaming straight down. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What if you are a screen? It's not an ordinary screen. This is the screen on which this entire universe is projected. Entire planets come and go, galaxies come and go. Entire universes come and go. The screen is unaffected. What if you are that screen? So our meeting today is for emptying ourselves, emptying our pockets, opening ourselves, untangling, loosening, becoming more transparent. It's not really about accumulating, but if something is meant to stay, it'll get integrated naturally. You don't really have to make notes. Just make that gentle journey from the head to the heart. Beautiful word. Love. What is the experience of love in this moment? Not love for someone or something, although that's fine. Just love. Love for no reason. Love with no target. What is it like to allow this body, this mind, all our thoughts, emotions, feelings? What does it allow? What is it like to allow this entire moment in all its fullness to marinate in love? Whatever love means to you, doesn't matter. This love without a target, just love. In India, we make achar or pickle and they put it into a glass jar, leave it out in the sun. Sometimes for days, sometimes for months. What's it like to allow yourself to marinate like achar, like pickle, in this love, under the sun of awareness, consciousness? May some very new perceptions arise, fresh perceptions arise. Been alive for what, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? How long have you been alive? How long have you regurgitated old perceptions, old thoughts? So tonight, may some very fresh perceptions arise. Something entirely new, entirely fresh. Not by your making it happen by itself. As you marinate in this atmosphere of love and awareness, we're not even doing it with some agenda. If I do this, I'll get healthier. If I do this, I'll be happier. No, maybe you won't. Maybe you will. Maybe you won't. No agenda, just marinating for no reason. In this way, just allowing ourselves to marinate, thoughts can come and go, no problem. Memories can come and go, no problem. Plans can come and go, no problem. Boredom can come and go, no problem. Just allowing yourself to be instead of being at war with yourself, instead of trying to improve yourself, improve your imaginary self. Every time we access this state of just being, this vertical dimension, this marination, the blueprint of this life starts coming into focus. Greater and greater, more intricate focus. There's a deep trust in your inner guidance system. There's a great trust that you can navigate this life. No matter what the mind says, you'll navigate it just fine. Loving the silence. Silence behind all activity, around all activity, and at the heart of all activity. Very nice. This process will continue to deepen by itself. And if you like, you can take a few deep breaths. And continue with eyes open or closed as you like. Beautiful. I'd like to offer a few readings. First of them comes from a book called My Secret is Silence by Adyashanti. It's a book of poems. Can I get Mandira Shukla? Can you just in the chat put a page number for me? Or rather, give me a percentage number. This book has got percentage. Give me a percentage number, Mandira. And let's read the poem that comes up. 25. It's a poem called Why I Teach. I'm sitting with my brothers and sisters, lovers and friends. Words fall from this empty mouth into the clean air, thrown like seeds onto the fertile ground. I'm sitting with my brothers and sisters, lovers and friends. Words fall from this empty mouth into the clean air, thrown like seeds onto the fertile ground. The core is waiting to be opened and exposed, eaten and digested. I am talking to you, dear one. Yes, you, the hidden one. Your stomach is empty and hungry. I know well the pain of deprivation. The mouth that cannot swallow, the parched throat that cannot drink. I'm talking to you. I have not forgotten you. I am there beside you. I have seeds to eat and sweet milk to drink, but you must take them. You need not chew or swallow. You can take my offering directly into the heart. Let it burst wide open and throw stars across space. I will wait for you, my brother, my sister, my lover, my friend. I was sent for you to expose you to yourself. Why I teach. Beautiful. Would somebody else like to give me a random percentage number? Let's see what comes up. Same book. 42. This one's called What Do You Really Want? Let your brain whirl and spin itself. Let your brain whirl and spin itself into blessed, exhausted silence. Let it rest like a baby in the open palmed hands of the heart held now. What do you really want after all? To win? To pick the sweetest fruit on the tree? Or to rest from the endless succession of temporal moments and the promises that they never keep? What do you really want after all? To win? To pick the sweetest fruit on the tree? Or to rest from the endless succession of temporal moments and the promises that they never keep? What do you really want? to take or to be taken, to find the great pearl of liberation or to be consumed by it. What do you really want? And then on the next page, he has a few short lines. Seek only to die into yourself. Seek only to die into yourself. There is a presence. There is a presence that is unnameable, which thought cannot touch. There is a presence that is unnameable, which thought cannot touch. It is not your possession. It is what you are. Just jump in. Don't try to hold on to what is realized. Be what is realized. What a good one. Don't try to hold on to what is realized. Be what is realized. You cannot maintain realization. You cannot maintain realization. You cannot sustain it. In order for it to always be, you must be it yourself in your humanity. Truth replaces you. It takes up residence. Truth replaces you. It takes up residence. Somebody suggested 77. So he says, Adyashanti says, the name of the poem is Born to Awaken Myself. I was born to awaken myself. I was born to awaken myself over there, playing the part of you. I join with you, and we realize together, as one being, the truth eternal. And then he has a few notes for this poem. This world is my dream, and it speaks myself back to me. I meet myself over there as you, as he, as she, as they, as it. Don't sit around and have a party about what just revealed itself. Get on with it. Don't talk to me about the real and the unreal. Don't talk to me about illusion and enlightenment. When you come upon the truth, it silences all categories of thought. When you come upon the truth, it silences all categories of thought. A psychological revolution comes simply from seeing what is. It is like holding a match to a dry leaf and the leaf igniting into fire. That is what seeing truth does. And the last one I'll read is the next page from this. All spiritual experiences are to be eventually left behind. All spiritual experiences are to be eventually left behind. One day, even your awakening to enlightenment will be seen as a flash of imagination that served only to orient you toward your own disappearance into simplicity and the restoration of cosmic humor. All spiritual experiences are to be eventually left behind. One day, even your awakening to enlightenment will be seen as a flash of imagination which served only to orient you toward your own disappearance into simplicity and the restoration of cosmic humor. So beautiful. Be quiet for a few minutes. Feel the energy of these poems. Feel the energy of these words. The name of the book is My Secret is Silence by Adyashanti. In one of my meditations, it kind of shook my world when it seemed that of all possible states available to that one consciousness, one awareness, call it God if you like, all possible states available to that all-knowing one, all being. It gave most delight for it to experience this experience, my experience. In other words, simpler way of saying it, your present experience, whatever it may be for you, is pure bliss for God, for life. This is life's pure bliss. So while from your perspective and my perspective, certain states are favorable and preferable to other states, from that perspective, All states are pure bliss. Because without comparison, every state is bliss. Only through measuring and comparing does it become wanted or unwanted. Also, in one of my meditations, it seemed to appear that what courage, each one of us, what courage to be willing to have a forgetfulness pill, to forget so completely. In fact, it's not even one pill, it's two pills. The first pill makes you forget. The second pill makes you forget that you had the pill, like 2 levels deep. Like they put you into anesthesia, and they put you into another layer of anesthesia, so you even forget that you are in anesthesia. So what courage, what audacity. And those of us who had that courage, we've shown up in this realm. I want to read a little bit of Rumi, and I have a book called A Year with Rumi. So if anyone would like to mention a day of the year, could be your birthday or could be some other day of the year, and let's see what Rumi has to say for us. So we have 18th of Jan. So Rumi says, when you give a noble falcon to a fussy old woman who knows nothing of falconry, she will clip its wings short for its own good. When you give a noble falcon to a fussy old woman who knows nothing of falconry, she will clip its wings short for its own good. Young man, where has your mother been, that your toenails have gotten this long? Those talons are now, those talons are how the falcon hunts its food. The old woman fixes him tutmaj, dumpling stew. Won't touch it. Too good to eat my tutmaj, huh? She ladles some broth and holds it to his beak. Her anger builds, and suddenly she pours the ladle of hot soup over his head. Tears come from those beautiful falcon eyes. He remembers his former life, the king's love whistle, the great circling over the ocean, the distances that condense so quickly to a point. Falcon tears are food for a true human being, perfume for the angel Gabriel. Your soul is the king's falcon who says, "This old woman's rage does not touch my glory, does not touch my discipline." When you give a noble falcon to a fussy old woman who knows nothing of falconry, she will clip its wings short for its own good. Beautiful. Then we have 25th is, I guess, Jan. Let's do 25th Jan. So 25th actually begins, it's like a continuation of 24th. Let's just read from 24th. Hosam, tell about the visions of Dakuki, who said, "I have traveled east and west, not knowing which way I was going. Following the moon, lost inside God." Someone asked, "Why do you go barefooted over the stones and thorns?" "What?" he answered. "What?" "A bewildered lover does not walk on feet. He or she walks on love. There are no long or short trips for those, no time. The body learned from spirit how to travel. A saint's body moves in the unconditioned way, though it seems to be in conditionedness." Dakuki said, "One day I was going along, looking to see in people the shining of the friend. I came to the shore at twilight and saw 7 candles. I hurried along the beach toward them. I was amazed. My amazement was amazed. Waves of bewilderment broke over my head." And continues into January 25th. "What are those candles that no one seems to see? In the presence of such lights, people are looking for lamps to buy. When the 7 become one, in the middle of the sky's rim, then that fanned out to 7 again. There were connections between the candles that cannot be said. I saw, but I cannot say. They became 7 men and then 7 trees, so dense with leaves and fruit, no limbs were visible. Flashes of light spurted from each fruit like juice. And most marvelous of all was that hundreds of thousands of people were passing beside the trees, risking their lives, sacrificing everything. To find some scrap of shade, no one saw the trees with their tremendous shade." This goes on. It's quite a mystical poem. This poem will continue. It goes on for the next several days. Interesting. Let's read some short quotes by Rumi. We carry inside us the wonders we seek outside us. Only from the heart can you touch the sky. The moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the moment you accept what troubles you've been given, the door will open. Love is the bridge. Love is the bridge between you and everything. There's a beautiful song by Kabir, Doha by Kabir. I want to share that with you. Listen to the sound.
चढ़ाऊंगा हो उलटी पावन चढ़ाऊंगा चढ़ाऊंगा हो निर्भय निर्गुण गुण रे गाऊंगा गाऊंगा हो निर्भय निर्गुण पर अनहद बाजे जी शून्य शिखर पर अनहद बाजे जी राग 36 सुनाऊंगा सुनाऊंगा हो राग 36 सुनाऊंगा सुनाऊंगा हो नीर भाई निर्गुण गुण रे गाऊंगा गाऊंगा हो नीर भाई निर्गुण हो कहत कबीरा सुनो भाई साधो जी कहत कबीरा सुनो भाई साधो जी जीत निशान घुराऊंगा घुराऊंगा हो जीत निशान घुराऊंगा घुराऊंगा हो नीर भाई निर्गुण गुण रे गाऊंगा गाऊंगा हो नीर भाई निर्गुण गुण रे गाऊंगा गाऊंगा हो नीर भाई निर्गुण हो नीर भाई निर्गुण
That's Nirbhay Nirgun sung by Vedant Bharadwaj. It's a beautiful doha of Kabir. I've given you in the comments the translation of what was just sung. I'll also put it on YouTube for those of you who are on YouTube. Why don't you take a 4 or 5 minute break if you like? We'll meet back in 4 or 5 minutes. Stretch your legs.
बिसर गई सब बाट पराई बिसर गई सब बाट पराई जब ते साहज संगत मोए पाई जब ते साहज संगत मोए पाई बिसर गई सब बाट पराई बिसर गई सब बाट पराई ना को बैरी नहीं बेगाना ना को बैरी नहीं बेगाना सागुल संग हमको बन आई सागुल संग हमको बन आई बिसर गई सब बाट पराई बिसर गई सब बाट पराई जब ते साहज संगत मोए पाई जब ते साहज संगत मोए पाई बिसर गई सब बाट पराई बिसर गई सब बाट पराई जो प्रभ की नो सो बल मा
All right, welcome back. What was the book on Rumi? I think it's called A Year with Rumi. A Year with Rumi, daily readings. And the author is Barks. Coleman Barks has translated it, compiled it. And the previous book I read was My Secret is Silence by Adyashanti. Lovely. So, would anyone like to say something or ask something? Or we can read some more and practice some more. You can also raise your hand. Purvi, did you raise your hand by accident, or you can unmute yourself if you want to say something? Purvi Duggar. Sometimes people raise their hand by accident. Hira wants to say something. Hira, go ahead.
Um, Whenever I meditate, my question is always that how do we decide what's the goal of our life? What is the final destination?
The final destination. What do you think it is?
I always get confused because I keep thinking. And when you read about Rumi, and then like when you had the song about Kabir, so constantly that's what I think. What is the goal? Where do we reach?
I'm actually more interested in those moments of your life where this question completely disappears.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some moments of your life where this question completely disappears?
Mm. What are the moments of my life when the question disappears? I actually, when I'm in deep meditation, these questions arise.
Like, for example, I know that you're fond of distributing blankets near hospitals and train stations. So
Okay.
when you're doing that, do you get this question?
No. So that's my karma. That will give me peace and happiness.
See, anytime, like for example, when you're watching a really good movie, do you get this question?
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting with your friends and family, do you get this question?
No.
To me, the best answer to this is, Mary Oliver's poem, where she talks about getting so confused with all these endless thoughts about what is life, what is death, is there a God, what happens after death. Of course, she says it more poetically. And then she's walking, taking a long walk. Her mind is consumed with these questions. And she sees the wild roses dancing in the wind.
Mm.
And she turns to the wild roses and says, Wild roses, do you know the answer?
Mm.
And the wild roses reply to her. And they say, Excuse us, but right now we are entirely busy being roses.
Mm.
So, I wonder. Yeah, so I mean, I'm just, if it's a really deep question,
Yes.
then you shouldn't rely on people like me, honestly. Then you
Mm-hmm.
should marinate in that question. It's your try and take a shortcut, which you shouldn't try to take.
Okay.
If it's a genuine question, you marinate in that question and you let that question marinate you.
Okay.
Don't rely on me, don't rely on a guru, don't rely on a book.
Okay.
Right. And if it's not a genuine question, then it's in its own time, it'll go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would recommend.
Okay. Thank you, Nitya.
You can always raise your hand if you want to speak. Otherwise, we will continue our reading. It's 11:11. How wonderful. So this is one of my favorite books, and I felt like really reading this book today. It's a book called The Hidden Lamp. It's a book of stories. There's a question here. How do you not get consumed by negative, self-defeating thoughts? And how to stop overthinking? How do you not get consumed by negative, self-defeating thoughts? And how to stop overthinking? What is the problem in getting consumed? I think this trying to hold back in a way, it's like there's a book, very famous book by Eckhart Tolle, where it begins, Power of Now. Many of you might have read it or at least heard of it. And he begins by saying that he goes through years of depression, debilitating depression. And one day he just said, I can't stand it anymore. I cannot live with myself. And then the question arises, I cannot live with myself. Are there two people here? I cannot live with myself. So what is this? Who is this I who cannot live with himself? And he starts chasing the tail of this I. So chasing the tail of the I chasing I seeking I. It's like a whirlpool. And next morning he wakes up and the world is like it has been completely cleaned. Everything is clean. Seeing is clean. Hearing is clean. Touch is clean. The world has become clean. So I would actually suggest, and again, I'm sorry if I don't give straight answers, but sometimes if you had to get a straight answer to this, then Google would have given it to you by now. So I'm going to give you somewhat twisted answers. So I want to suggest that you're actually not getting consumed by your self-defeating thoughts. And I want to suggest that you allow yourself to get consumed by your self-defeating thoughts and say, all right, what's going to happen? How deep is it going to go? What's going to happen? That's the courage. And, I've been meditating for how long? Since the age of, at least from the age of 16 onwards. So someone today, there was a lady interviewing me today. She said, what's your age? I said, I don't talk about my age. So without telling you my age, I've been meditating for a long time. And I think one time I got interested in, just for the fun of it, calculating how many hours of meditation I'd done. So I kind of calculated them. And that time, this was like maybe at least 7-8 years back, it came to over 20,000 hours of meditation. So after 20,000 hours of meditation, I still get thoughts when I meditate. Some days there are more thoughts, some days there are less thoughts. But there's a difference. They are thoughts. They're not my thoughts. They are thoughts. And for me, it is like when I eat something, the stomach secretes its digestive fluids. Stomach has the job of secreting. Similarly, brain secretes thoughts. So there is no opposition to thoughts. So it's not so much about how to control these thoughts and how to get rid of these thoughts, but why are you taking delivery of these thoughts? Thoughts are coming. It's like a good analogy for meditation is you're a gatekeeper of a fancy hotel. All kinds of guests come to this hotel. The gatekeeper's job is to welcome them. The gatekeeper's job is not to follow them inside the hotel. That's not the job of the gatekeeper. Your job is to acknowledge, you've come. In fact, there's a great poem by Rumi on exactly this question you asked. Let's find it. Most of you might have heard this poem, but it's worth repeating. This poem is called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows, who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So, this being human is a guest house, and all kinds of guests are going to arrive. Sometimes joy, sometimes depression, sometimes meanness, sometimes a moment of awareness. As unexpected visitors, can you welcome and entertain them all? Even if they're a crowd of sorrows that violently sweep your house empty of its furniture? Can you treat each guest honorably? Because they might be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. So instead of trying to stop overthinking, you get interested in your overthinking. And what I've learned from my teachers is nothing is out of place. The days you have so-called overthinking, a lot of recalibration is happening, a lot of letting go is happening. Excellent. A simple way of saying a lot of stress is being released. The days you have less thoughts, less stress has to be released. The days you have almost no thoughts, no stress has to be released. So the journey is from having an experience to witnessing the experience to being the experience. This is our journey. And if you notice those three phases very clearly, all of them are a journey from here to here. Having an experience, I am having an experience. I am witnessing an experience. I am an experience. And so instead of trying to fight with these thoughts, I would invite you to, like Rumi says, be like the guest house. Come on in, welcome. What you welcome is never a problem. What you resist will persist. The moment you welcome it, these words, negative, self-defeating, those words just go away. And they're just, it's a part of you. If you just scratch the surface, it's a part of you that also has its own needs. It's trying to keep you safe, for example. It doesn't want you to get hurt. Why do you have self-defeating thoughts? There was a time in your life where you did certain things. You made a vow, I'll never do that again. It hurts. I did that and people laughed at me. I did that and it broke my heart. I'm never going to do that again. So it's a part of you. It's a part of you that needs attention. So that's a kind of a roundabout answer to your question, and see if any of that helps. Overthinking leads to analysis paralysis. You don't land up taking action. And I think we're a little too action oriented in this world. Action is important, but we're a little addicted to action. There's a funny saying. Most people we say, don't just sit there, do something. And the wise ones say, don't just do something, sit there. So sit there. What's going to happen? Analysis paralysis. So then go deeper into the paralysis. And on the other side of the paralysis, paradise. So I think we rush too quickly into action. We don't fully digest what needs to happen. That's been my experience anyway. Because in that case, the action, what's that nice saying? Nature never hurries, yet everything gets done. And humans are constantly hurrying. We never get our things done. Okay, we're going to have a small reading from this book, The Hidden Lamp, Stories from 25 Centuries of Awakened Women. And can I invite one of you? Nupur, would you like to give me a page number? Is there page numbers in this? Give me a chapter number, please. It's got quite a few chapters, getting close to 100 chapters. So give me a chapter number. Let's see what's coming. Number, yeah, SG, we can do 15 as well. I asked Nupur, so if Nupur doesn't want to say, we'll go with 15. Let me go to the contents page. Nupur says 6. Let's go to 6 first. So these are all stories from mostly the Buddhist tradition in different parts of the world. And this particular story comes from the 6th century from India. And the title is Bhadda Kundala Kesa, cannot answer. Bhadda Kundala Kesa, cannot answer. Bhadda Kundala Kesa was a wandering Jain ascetic famous for her debating skills. Whenever she came to a new place, she set a branch of rose apple in the ground and put out the word that whoever wished to debate her should trample the branch. When she was 70 years old, she came to Savatthi. Savatthi is what is now called Shravasti in India. And the Buddha's disciple Sariputta came forward to engage her in a public debate. First, she asked a series of philosophical questions of Sariputra, and he was able to answer them all. And then he said, "You have asked many questions. I would like to ask only one." She said, "Please, Venerable One." He asked, "One, what is that?" She was unable to answer. He said, "If you don't even know that, how could you know anything else?" And he began to teach her the Dharma. She was so moved by the teaching that she fell at his feet and asked to take refuge with him. But instead, he told her to come and meet the Buddha. The Buddha recognized her spiritual maturity and said to her, "One phrase that brings peace is better than 1,000 words that have no use." This is also a famous verse in the Dhammapada. When she heard those words, she was freed and became an arahant. And the Buddha ordained her, simply saying, "Bhadda, come." Ehi Bhadda, Ehi means come. Bhadda, come. And just a little bit on the side, there is a little bit of scripturally, a little bit of to and fro that happens between Jains and Buddhists. So just take it in that light. The Buddhists talk about how the Jains come to their side, and the Jains talk about how the Buddhists go to their side. So just take that with a pinch of salt. One of the great beauties of Bhadda's story is that, like the stories of Angulimala, the murderer, and of Milarepa, who practiced black magic, it speaks of transformation within this lifetime. Whatever harm we may have done, however great, it is possible through sincere effort, sustained by wise teaching, to put it fully behind us and enter into freedom, compassion, and intimacy. Bhadda's story speaks to us not only of realization, but of redemption. As one who has done harm in my life, I treasure this possibility. So each of these stories, after the story, there is a contemporary woman teacher who is elaborating. So there's a lady called Beth Kanji. Beth Kanji Goldring is reflecting on the story. So she says, Bhadda's story speaks to us not only of realization, but of redemption. As one who has done harm in my life, I treasure this possibility. Bhadda Kundalakesa's early life illuminates this. Bhadda came from a prosperous middle-class family and was kept secluded because of her willful, passionate nature. One day, from her window, she saw a handsome, high-born thief being led to execution. Bhadda insisted on marrying him. In some versions of the story, he was an innocent person who was executed. In some versions of the story, an innocent person was executed in his place. Shortly afterward, her husband told Bhadda he wanted to fulfill a promise to a mountain deity. He told her to come with him and wear her most precious jewels. He then led her to the top of a cliff and tried to throw her over. She, having asked to make one last obeisance to him. Okay, I'll tell you a story. They're telling it too quickly. So I remember the story. So this is a story of, so Bhadda insists on marrying this thief. She falls in love with him. And the thief says, "Come, let's go to the mountain. I have a mountain deity there. I want to pray to the mountain deity." And you get all your ornaments along. So he has bad intentions. He wants to kill his wife and take all her ornaments. Now imagine she's insisted on marrying this thief. And here they are. They're on top of the mountain, and then she understands his real intentions. So she says, okay, you want to push me over, but wait. It is the dharma of a wife to bow to her husband. So before you push me over, let me touch your feet. He says, okay, go ahead, touch my feet. So she goes to touch his feet and she throws him over instead. Then she's so repulsed by what her passion has done to her, what it has led her to, that she turns away from the world and she ordains as a Jain ascetic. And as a special penance, each of her hair is pulled out individually by the roots and it grows back curly. And therefore she has the name Kundala Kesa, curly haired. So she's Bhadda, the curly head. By the time Bhadda encountered Sariputra and then the Buddha, she had spent many years in determined, impoverished, isolated mendicant practice. Debate, a form of conversation that precludes intimacy, was her primary means of communication. What a nice way of saying it. Debate is a form of conversation that precludes intimacy. The lovely saying by Scott Peck, he says, notice when a discussion is generating more heat than light. That's the time to zip. Behind her apparent success, the pain of this isolation must have been unbearable. What is the one that Sariputra asks her about? Perhaps one possibility is that the one is the intimacy that has been Buddha's deepest longing and birthright. A birthright he first mistook for sexual passion and then turned away from as a consequence of doing harm. Sariputra's question breaks down her walls, showing her the limitations of what she has achieved. This opens a space in her life closed for many years. The Buddha speaks to her of another one word that brings peace, rather than many words of isolating debate. This opens a possibility of another life, a life of intimacy with all beings, free of pain, guilt, and isolation. I just want to say here that when your heart, when your being is in a state of love, then the words that come have tremendous healing power, as you probably experienced in your life. So words which come from love, they issue from love, have a healing. They have almost like an alchemical power, a magical healing power. They go on to touch beings. So better than 1,000 words just spoken mindlessly or even very smartly are a few words spoken from love. I was doing a retreat once and someone shared with the group how he, as a young man, was fond of racing his bike in the city streets. His father had given him a nice fast bike and he used to zigzag in traffic. And many times his friends and his parents told him, don't drive like this. Made no difference. He would ride anyway. And he told us that once he came to a traffic signal and the truck driver next to him said, son, that's a beautiful bike. He said, thank you. And then the truck driver said, but you don't deserve it. He said, what do you mean? He said, the way you're riding your bike is endangering everyone's life. So it's a beautiful bike, but you don't deserve it. Your father may have given it to you, but you're not worthy of it. And something about that really, like so many people had criticized him for the way he rode his bike. He was too proud, made no difference. But this particular time, the way the truck driver said it, and he was not trying to shame him. He was just pointing out the facts in a very loving way. It's a beautiful bike. You're not worthy of it. So that day onwards, he became a responsible rider of his bike, and he wouldn't endanger himself and others for the thrill of it. So coming back to this. One word, the Buddha speaks to her of another word, one word, a one word that brings peace rather than many words of isolating debate. Again, one more thing is triggering some thoughts. In one of my workshops, someone shared that for years she'd been struggling with how to deal with her sister-in-law, they would often get into loggerheads with one thing or the other. And at one level, they cared for each other, they liked each other, but in the moment, they would just get into these fights. And she was telling me, what should I do in that situation? I said, you tell me what should be done. And she meditated on it. And then she shared how she'd gone back home, and the next time that happened, she just went and hugged her. And initially she was taken aback. Her sister-in-law was taken aback. But it just dissolved everything. That hug just dissolved everything. So sometimes even a word is not required. Sometimes, in fact, words just come in the way. Sometimes just a gesture is required. It's nice to study the 5. Have you heard of the 5 love languages that Gary Chapman talks about? He says love is conveyed in 5 ways: words, quality time, gifts, acts of service, and touch. All 5 are important, but each of us has our own love language. So we have a preference. Some of us prefer speaking words, and we need to hear the words. Some of us prefer quality time, undistracted time. Give me your full attention. Some of us prefer gifts, that you remember me. Not so much the value of the gift, but the fact that you remembered me. Some of us prefer acts of service, that you're there for me when I need you most. And for some of us, it's physical touch. And all 5 are important. And it's nice to know, because sometimes you feel you're being so loving because your love language is words. And you're saying it and you're texting and you're messaging, and your partner doesn't feel loved because their love language is something else. They want you to be there. They want you to give quality time. They want you to give physical touch. They want you to do an act of service. And so many misunderstandings. You feel you're being so loving, and the other person says no. And the same way, the other way around. It's a very powerful concept. And this opened the possibility of intimacy with all beings, free of pain, free of guilt, free of isolation. In that moment, Bhadda's mind, ripened over many years, finally fully released. And then the Buddha simply said, Bhadda, come. Come, Bhadda. Come means come, join the order, be with us. So Bhadda enters the order of nuns as a fully enlightened nun. In the Zen tradition, there is a saying that not knowing is the deepest intimacy. How beautiful. Not knowing is the deepest intimacy. When I first encountered this concept in 1979, I found it repellent. I wasn't content with not knowing, and I deeply feared intimacy. It has taken many years for me to find myself at home with the intimacy of not knowing. Perhaps in addition to the issue of redemption, it is also my long quarrel with both not knowing and intimacy that draws me so strongly to Bhadda's story. In 2000, I started working with destitute AIDS patients in Cambodia, believing I'd finally found work that was morally unambiguous. What I soon learned was that the work brought me up against my resistances to being fully and completely present, completely intimate. I had a supportive supervisor and a compassionate but unsparing Buddhist teacher. These two were vital to my ability to sustain the effort of being present. Seeing my resistances was often the core of my work. Over time, my resistances lessened. I began to feel deep oneness with my patients, a sense of our being held together in boundless compassion. Over more time, I began to trust this experience of oneness. I began to welcome it and expect it. I am not alone in this. There are 8 Khmer lay chaplains in our organization, and several of them can touch depths of intimacy that humble me. All of us who do this work know that the intimacy we feel with our patients is utterly sustaining and nourishing for us. That we truly are the beneficiaries of our patients' willingness to allow us to be present. We are, all of us, far from full realization, but in those moments of boundless intimacy, we may well taste what might be possible for one who is fully awakened and intimate and at peace with all beings. And there's some questions at the end of this chapter. How do you know? How do you know when to stop talking? How do you give up the knowledge that keeps you apart from others? What does not knowing have to do with intimacy? So beautiful. Let's be quiet for some time. And the unique resonance and frequency of this new moon, may it bring you to alignment, clarity, revealing the newness and the emptiness at the heart of every experience. Newness and emptiness, transparency. And that one word, love, whatever it means to you. What's it like to be in a state of love instead of wanting love or expecting some kind of equation of love? What's it like to be in a state of love? Love with no target, love with no specific direction, just love. What's it like to marinate in this love? In one of his poems, Adyashanti says, the whole point is to be in love with now and now and now and now and now and now. Loving what is. When you love what is, your mind is in union, in accordance with the universal mind, God's mind. When you love what needs to be, should be, could be, then your mind is on its own track, which is also fine, has its own taste. That's the horizontal dimension. But the vertical dimension is here, to be in love with what is, to be a lover of reality. Your mind is in accordance, is in harmony, is in alignment with the universal mind, God's mind. Feel like doing a little chanting? Just listen to this. This is Buddhist chanting, Pali language. Just feel the vibrations. I won't be translating it. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Evang me sudang ekang samayang bhagava varanasiyang viharti isi patane megadaye tatra ko bhagava panchavagye bhikkhu amantesi rupang bhikkhave anatta rupang cha idang bhikkhave atta abhavissa naidang rupang abadaya samvatteya labata cha rupe evang me rupang hotu evang me rupang ma ahositi Yasmajako bhikkhave rupang anatta tasma rupang abadaya samvattati achalabati rupe evang me rupang hotu evang me rupang ma ahositi vedana anatta vedana chaidang bhikkhave atta abhavissa naidang vedana abadaya samvattaya labata cha vedanaya evang me vedana hotu evang me vedana ma ahositi Yasmachako bhikkhave vedana anatta tasma vedana abadaya samvattati achalabati vedanaya evang me vedana hotu evang me vedana ma ahositi sanya anatta sanyata chaidang bhikkhave atta abhavissa naidang sanya abadaya samvattaya labata cha sanyaya Evang me sanya hotu, evang me sanya ma ahositi. Yasmachako bhikkhave sanya anatta, tasma sanya abadaya samvattati. Achalabati sanyaya, evang me sanya hotu, evang me sanya ma ahositi. Sankhara anatta, sankhara chaidang bhikkhave atta abhavissansu. Naidang sankhara abadaya samvatteyum. Labata cha sankharesu evang me sankhara hontu evang me sankhara ma ahesanti. Yasmachako bhikkhave sankhara anatta tasma sankhara abadaya samvattanti. Nachalabati sankharesu evang me sankhara hontu evang me sankhara ma ahesanti. Vinyanang anatta Vinyanancha idang bhikkhave atta abhavissa naidang vinyanang abadaya samvatteya labata cha vinyane evang me vinyanang hotu evang me vinyanang ma ahositi yasmachako bhikkhave vinyanang anatta tasma vinyanang abadaya samvattati achalabati vinyane evang me vinyanang hotu evang me vinyanang ma ahositi Tanking manyatta bhikkhave rupang nityang va anityang vati anityang bhante yang prananityang dukkhang vatang sukkhang vati dukkhang bhante yang prananityang dukkhang viparinamadhammang kallang nutang samasamanupasitham etang mama eso hamasmi eso me attati no hetang bhante tanking manyatta bhikkhave vedana anicca va anicca vati anicca bhante yang prananityang dukkhang vatang sukkhang vati dukkhang bhante yang prananityang dukkhang viparinamadhammang kallang nutang samanupasitam etang mama eso hamasmi eso me attati no hetang bhante tanking manyatta bhikkhave sanyanicca va anicca vati anicca bhante yang prananityang dukkhang vatang sukkhang vati dukkhang bhante yang prananityang dukkhang viparinamadhammang kallang nutang samanupasitam etang mama eso hamasmi eso me attati no hetang bhante tanking manyatta bhikkhave sankhara anicca va anicca vati anicca bhante. Tampananicchang dukkhang vatang sukkhang vati dukkhang bhante. Yang prananichang dukkhang viparinamadhammang kallang nutang samanupasitam etang mama eso hamasmi eso me attati no hetang bhante tanking manyatha bhikkhave vinyanang nichang va anichang vati anichang bhante yang prananichang dukkhang vatang sukkhang vati dukkhang bhante yang prananichang dukkhang viparinamadhammang kallang nutang samanupasitam etang mama eso hamasmi eso me attati no hetang bhante tasmati bhikkhave yang kinchirupam atitanagatapacchuppannam ajjattang va bahiddha va olarkang va sukhamang va hinang va panitang va yang dure santi keva sabbang rupam netang mama neso hamasmi na meso attati evametang yatha bhutang sammapanyaya datthabbang या काचिवेदना अतीतनागतपच्चुप्पन्ना अज्जत्ता वा बहिद्धा वा ओलारिका वा सुखमा वा हीना वा पणिता वा या दूरे सन्ति केव सब्बा वेदना नेतं मम नेसोऽहमस्मि न मेसो अत्ताति एवमेतं यथा भूतं सम्मापन्याय दट्टब्बं या काचि सन्न्या अतीतनागतपच्चुप्पन्ना अज्जत्ता वा बहिद्धा वा ओलारिका वा सुखमा वा हीना वा पणिता वा या दूरे सन्ति केव सब्बा सन्न्य नेतं मम नेसोऽहमस्मि न मेसो अत्ताति एवमेतं यथा भूतं सम्मापन्याय दट्टब्बं ये केचि सङ्खार अतीतनागतपच्चुप्पन्ना अज्जत्ता वा बहिद्धा वा ओलारिका वा सुखमा वा हीना वा पणिता वा ये दूरे सन्ति केव सब्बे सङ्खारा नेतं मम नेसोऽहमस्मि न मेसो अत्ताति एवमेतं यथा भूतं सम्मापन्याय दट्टब्बं या किञ्चि विज्ञानम् अतीतनागतपच्चुप्पन्नं अज्जत्तं वा बहिद्धा वा ओलारुकं वा सुखमं वा हीना वा पणितं वा यं दूरे सन्ति केव सब्बं विज्ञानं नेतं मम नेसोऽहमस्मि न मेसो अत्ताति एवमेतं यथा भूतं सम्मापन्याय दट्टब्बम् एवं पस्सं भिक्खवे सुतवा अर्यसावको रूपस्मिंपि निब्बिन्दति वेदनायापि निब्बिन्दति संज्ञायापि निब्बिन्दति संखारेषुपि निब्बिन्दति विज्ञानस्मिंपि निब्बिन्दति निबिदं विरज्यति विरागविमुच्यति विमुक्तस्मिन् विमुक्तम् इति ज्ञानं होति क्षीणा जाति वसितं ब्रह्मचर्यं कथं करणीयं नापरं इत्थत्तायाति पजानातीति इदमवोच भगवा अत्तमना पञ्चवज्ञिया भिक्खु भगवतो भासितम् अभिनन्दम् इमस्मिन् च पनवैयाकरणस्मिन् मन्यमाने पञ्चवज्ञियानं भिक्खूनम् अनुपादाय आसावेहि चित्तानि विमुच्यंसूति अनत्तलक्षणसुत्तं नित्थितम्. That was the second discourse of the Buddha, the Anattalakkana Sutta. Feel like chanting one more shorter one. Kusala dhamma akusala dhamma abhayagata dhamma sukhaya vedanaya sampayutta dhamma dukhaya vedanaya sampayutta dhamma adukkama sukhaya vedanaya sampayutta dhamma vipakka dhamma dhamma dhamma. Neva vipakka na vipakka dhamma dhamma. Uppaden uppadaniya dhamma. Anupaden uppadaniya dhamma. Anupaden nanupadaniya dhamma. Sankhileta sankhilesika dhamma. Asankhileta asankhileta sankhilesika dhamma. Asankhileta sankhilesika dhamma. Savitakka savichara dhamma. Avitakka vichara mata dhamma. Avitakka vichara dhamma. Piti sahagata dhamma. Sukha sahagata dhamma. Upekha sahagata dhamma. Dasanena pahatabba dhamma. Bhavanaya pahatabba dhamma. Neva dasanena na bhavanaya pahatabba dhamma. Dasanena pahatabba hetuka dhamma. Bhavanaya pahatabba hetuka dhamma. Neva dasanena na bhavanaya pahatabba hetuka dhamma. Achayagamino dhamma. Apachayagamino dhamma. Nevachayagamino napachayagamino dhamma. Sikha dhamma. Asikha dhamma. Neva sikha na sikha dhamma. Paritta dhamma. Mahagata dhamma. Appamana dhamma. Parittaramana dhamma. Mahagataramana dhamma. Appamana dhamma. Hina dhamma. Majjhima dhamma. Panita dhamma. Michattaniyata dhamma. Sammattaniyata dhamma. Aniyata dhamma. Maggaramana dhamma. Maggahetuka dhamma. Maggadipatino dhamma. Uppanna dhamma. Anupanna dhamma. Uppadeno dhamma. Atita dhamma. Anagata dhamma. Pachuppanna dhamma. Atita ramana dhamma. Anagata ramana dhamma. Pachuppanna ramana dhamma. Ajjatta dhamma. Bahitta dhamma. Ajjatta bahitta dhamma. Ajjatta ramana dhamma. Bahitta ramana dhamma. Ajjatta bahitta ramana dhamma. Sanidasana sapadiga dhamma. Anidasana sapadiga dhamma. Anidasana patiga dhamma. Hetu pachayo aramana pachayo adipati pachayo anantara pachayo samanantara pachayo sahajata pachayo anyamanya pachayo nissaya pachayo upanissaya pachayo purejata pachayo pachajata pachayo asevana pachayo Kamma pachayo vipaka pachayo ahara pachayo indriya pachayo jnana pachayo magga pachayo sampayutta pachayo vipayutta pachayo atti pachayo natti pachayo vigata pachayo avigata pachayo ti. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkhantu sabba devata. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkhantu sabba devata. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakkhantu sabba devata. Sabba buddhanubhavena, sabba dhammanubhavena, sabba sanghanubhavena. Sada sothi bhavantu te. All right, very nice. I notice we've come to the end of our time. I'll share the translation of the first sutra I chanted, the Anattalakkana Sutta. Are you part of my Hadayoli group on Telegram? I'll put the link here and I'll share the translation there. You can look it up. Otherwise, just search for Anattalakkana Sutta online. You'll find it. It's the second discourse of the Buddha, one of my favorites. At one time, I'd memorized the whole thing. It was fun. And it's one of my favorite sutras. Yeah, so be in touch. We have an upcoming intensive all-day session coming up on the 16th. If you're up for it, join us. You'll find details of all my programs on that Hadayoli group or on, there are a few other places you can look it up. Sujay is asking, what is astral traveling? Astral traveling is what they call an out-of-body experience. We asked our teachers about that, and they actually didn't encourage it, actually. They said, first learn to be in your body instead of trying to get out of your body. So while it can sound very mystical and fun, and I think it is as well, it'll not really help you in your, it may expand your horizons to an extent, but it'll not really help you with your essential spiritual practice, which is the ripening of the heart. That comes by being in the body, not by going into various mental landscapes. So at the right time, when you are ripened a little bit more, then you can do all those fun things like astral traveling and all, but don't start off with that as a focus. It can get very confusing because you can go into realms where you experience all kinds of subtle beings and you're not sure what is real and what is not, and you can come back very disturbed. So I agree with my teachers, don't focus too much on astral traveling, at least in the beginning. Once you're quite established, then all these things become available to you. Then you wouldn't be asking me that question anyway, so it's fine. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. Lovely thank you messages. Thank you all for staying with me for 2 hours and enjoying this lovely new moon together. Be well, and let's make a Mayurma, this beautiful symbol of good wishes. It's a way of sending infinite love and blessings to all beings. And we say together, Mayurma.